My name is Matthew Vashur from BibleProtector.com. Today we're looking at Stephen Anderson, Unauthorized King James Bible Editor. And this is a great warning about those who are making proclamations about errors in the King James Bible. It's a very dangerous place to go to do that. So Stephen Anderson is a controversial preacher in the United States, and he's just come out and said that in Deuteronomy chapter 21 and verse 22, where it says, "And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree," that he writes, "I've always just read this as, and he be put to death." But it says, "and he be to be put to death." Well, the King James Bible's had that all along, since 1611. That's what the translators put. That's the way it's supposed to be. But no, he doesn't think so. He thinks it's a typographical error. And what did he do? He says, I looked it up in Hebrew, and it should just say, "and he be put to death," apparently. He says, it's funny because I think I've always just read it that way anyway because my brain was correcting the typo. Ooh, funny. That is strange. My brain was correcting the typo, meaning something was changing the King James Bible. His brain? This is not good. This is not good. Mark Ward, who's no friend of the King James Bible, even he says that's not a typographical error in the King James Bible. Those words "to be," they belong there. In Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 22 and 23, "And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is accursed of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance." Now notice those words "to be" there in blue. I put them in blue. They're the words that Stephen Anderson wants to take out. So what's he basing this on? How does he detect, or what's his method of finding a typographical error in the King James Bible, which, by the way, no one did for over 400 years. Stephen Anderson, in some special way, came up with this in 2023. It doesn't sound right. Well, he relies on his gut feeling opinion that it's a typographical error. That's not a great authority. He went and looked at the Hebrew. Well, that's not how you work out if there's a typographical error. Certainly not today. Why? Because we've got the Word of God in English. All the typographical errors have been corrected ages ago. We don't keep on looking at the Hebrew now to see, oh no, there might be an error here or there. That's not how we read the Bible. We just don't need the Hebrew anymore. We've got the King James Bible in English. That whole process is a finished process. So the fact that Stephen Anderson is doing that, he's opening the door to find alleged typographical errors. And you go down that route, well, typographical errors can be used then to start to change the Bible and, change doctrines. It's a dangerous, dangerous road to go down. Another thing he did is look at the pre-1611 translations. Now, the King James Bible was made to supersede these old translations like the Geneva version and the Bishop's version. But if you do as Stephen Anderson has done and go back to them to see, oh, well, I want to justify my opinion that this is a typographical error, that's my opinion in 2023, like an illumination, a new revelation almost, that there's a typographical error no one else seemed to know. Well, why would you go to these pre-1611 translations to help justify that? It's all wrong. It's all steps in the wrong direction. We're moving forward from there, not going back to that. It's like going back to the Hebrew. Another thing, which is rather interesting, is this idea of, well, let's go and look at an alleged draft of the King James Bible. What did the translators put? What did they really say? They got it wrong in 1611 when they printed it, and all the printers and editors got it wrong ever since, apparently. Well, here's a particular screen grab of a digitized copy of a manuscript that is said to be, purported to be, a draft of the King James Bible, one of the draft manuscript documents. And this one's in the Bodleian Library in Oxford. And you can see this place here. Now, what's important to understand about this, or what actually happened, is the King James Bible translators, they were using a bishop's Bible, folio size, and then they were making their annotations on that. Now, this manuscript that we see here, this picture of a manuscript, that isn't even, necessarily one of the drafting documents. There's some view that these could have been made, this particular manuscript came from later than 1611. It was done afterwards of someone looking at it. So there's all kinds of questions about this. Not every apparent deletion has been deleted from the final copy. Not apparently every annotation or addition or note has been made or changed. So there's not an exact correlation between what was printed in 1611 and this alleged draft document. Now, it may be some part of the drafting process somewhere in the process, but it's just not that reliable, and it's just not the method we would use to say, looking at the editorial history of the King James Bible. Now, in the case of Deuteronomy chapter 21 and verse 22, the fact is this, that the entire editorial history of the King James Bible from when it was printed in 1611 and all the printing since have been printed with the words "to be" there. So it's not some typo that was added in and somehow has lingered in there to this present day and no one ever caught it. That just defies all belief and common sense. It's not right. And yet, Stephen Anderson in some special fit has detected this? I don't think so. I don't think God raised him up for this purpose, to do that. In fact, I don't see that whatsoever at all. I see that God used people at the Oxford University Press, at Cambridge University Press. I see people in line with that. Bible Protector Ministry is directly about upholding that legacy, not a Stephen Anderson jumped up overnight, 3-penny kind of, make up your own sort of excuse why some words wouldn't belong approach. So those words "to be," they've got to stay there. They belong there. We can have absolute reliability or absolute certainty of the reliability of those words. They've been there in every edition of the King James Bible. They've been there all along. The translators put them there. Those words are the words of God inspired. That's the point. Yes, they're in blue to show you, but they are the words that belong. So, here's some questions. How is it that Stephen Anderson detected the typo when no one did for over 400 years? That's a serious question. More seriously, do other typos lurk unknown? And when will they be corrected? You see, this is the problem of the Stephen Anderson approach. You begin to come into uncertainty, and there's no solution there. When you think about it, there could be, am I going to ask Stephen Anderson his opinion and he's going to do what he did before? His opinion, I'll look at the Hebrew, I'll look at these pre-1611 translations, I'll look at this Bodleian manuscript and see what it says there. I'll do those things and I'll tell you whether or not it's belonging or not, that it's a typographical error or not. This is a dangerous, dangerous trend. Okay, this is the solution. This is the right thing to do. This is the Bible Protector way. Trust that God got it right, providentially, through the hands of all the printers, editors, and commentators of the King James Bible. That's the ecclesiastical approach. That's saying through the hands of all the English-speaking Protestants, the Church of England, and all the other Protestants that uphold the King James Bible, and us today, we know that we've got those words. So, those words to be in Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 22, they belong. That's an authoritative position we have. And two, we stand on the basis of the pure Cambridge edition that's in a line of the proper editing of the King James Bible. Yes, there have been typographical errors made in the printing of the King James Bible back in 1611 and over ensuing years. Yes, printing errors were corrected and others were made. And, every time someone's, set up the printing press and put a print run through, there's every chance that there's some little error somewhere in the setup of the printing. But we've come to an end of that process. How? Because we've got the technology today and the confluence, as it were, of providential circumstances that's brought about a solution. What's that? Well, with computers, with available information because of the internet, because of the right factors of the right things at the right time, in the right place, the right people, etc., we know that we have not only the pure Cambridge edition, not only know what it is, not only know that it's got no typos, but actually even the ability to know that we can have a copy of it electronically and then print that and use that as a master to know, hey, this is the King James Bible without any typographical errors in it. That's been resolved. That's been fixed. Now, there's two levels of editing in the King James Bible's history. Or I should say there's two levels of an editorial process of how it would occur. One is the editing process like what you see, say, in 1769. That's a major editing process of the King James Bible as far as spelling of words and all these kind of things. But the other kind of editorial process happens just all the time. It happens anywhere all the time. And that is when, say a 1769 Bible was being printed again. Well, of course, even when the 1769 was printed, there was unintentional mistakes made in the press work. That weren't Blaney's fault when he had done the editorial work. They were just, when they were setting it, they made some mistakes there. Well, they had to be corrected, and that happens all the time. It happens when they print things, when you type on a computer, whatever. People make a mistake. They slip on a keyboard or something happens. There's all kinds of little errors that happen like that. The fact is, and this is the big point here, can God get those things right? Can he correct those things? If those things come in, can he get rid of them? Yes, he can. And this is the whole point about this whole thing. People have looked at the King James Bible issue as a textual issue. It's a fight between the Textus Receptus versus the modern critical text. People have looked at it as a translation issue as well, which is connected to that, which is, it's a fairly formal translation versus, say a paraphrase or some sort of loose translation. Well, that's one level of looking at the Bible. Another level is to look at the history of the King James Bible in an editorial sense. So people have looked at it in the sense of, well, since it was printed in 1611, it has gone through an editorial process. Now, that editorial process has done things like correct typographical errors, it's altered spellings on words to make them standardized, it's made sure the grammar is standardized, so in places, grammatical forms, there's been that kind of editing in the King James Bible's history. All of that is very legitimate. It's well accepted, and that's fine. And as I said, and third of all, is this more minute level of, can we actually get a copy or even the knowledge of what would be a correct final standard form? That's what the Pure Cambridge Edition actually is about. It's not just saying there's an editorial process that went from 1611 through 1769 to a pure Cambridge edition, which is what people understand. But when you get to the point of looking at, can we know precisely every full stop, every comma, not just know where they belong, but also actually then have an actual copy that has it like that, that's the ultimate when you're getting to the jot and tittle of having correctness. Now, as I said, that's what we've achieved. That's where we're at in history. That's what we actually have. So now we have Stephen Anderson saying, well, he's detected some typographical error. What, is he an editor, like another Dr. Blaney to come along and make some arbitrary changes? No. That process is a complete and finished process. There's no room, there's no place, there's no justification for any more fiddling around by someone like Stephen Anderson, because there are no such errors. There are no such, lost or undetected typographical errors. There's no such, places where, these spellings need to be altered. This just doesn't exist anymore. It's been finalized. So Stephen Anderson, he gets across. He's wrong. He's wrong on this topic. Mark Ward, he doesn't get a tick, but he was right to say that it wasn't a typographical error. That the King James Bible should have the words to be. That's correct. And you can get more information on this topic, on a whole range of topics related to it, and look at my blog. It's at bibleprotector.com/blog, and general information there, bibleprotector.com. God bless you.